afternoon, 5M. Let's get started for today's math lesson. On your whiteboard, you're going to answer these questions, please. The first one tells you to write 7,143 and 25 hundredths in expanded notation. Expanded notation is where you use the plus sign. So tell me how much that 7 is worth. Write it down, put a plus sign, how much the 1 is worth. Write it down, put a plus sign, how much the 4 is worth. Write it down, put a plus sign, how much that 3 is worth. Write it down, put a plus sign, how much the 2 is worth. Write it down, plus sign, how much the 5 is worth. And then you'll be done. So the next one says find the mode and the median of this data set. So see if you can figure out what that means. If you don't remember what mode and median are, you can look back into your iPad's camera roll to look for those, or of course you could always look in your SRB. Next it says, what is the triangle called when it has all the sides and angles equal? And the last one is write a prime number between 15 and 30. Go ahead and do those now and come back to me when you're finished. Okay, you must be finished. So I'll go over the answers with you. The first one should look like this. 7,000 plus 100 plus 40 plus 3 plus 2 tenths plus 5 hundredths. Make sure you know how to do those, please. If you're not sure, raise your hand and we'll be happy to help you. The mode and the median. The median number is that middle number. So if you put these in order from least to greatest, mark off the highest, lowest, so you get to the middle number is going to be 6, and mode is the ones that occur the most often. In this one there happens to be 3 modes, a 5, a 7, and an 8, which all occur twice. What is a triangle called when it has all the sides and angles are equal? That is an equilateral triangle. That is the one that looks like this. I'll try my best here. Okay. Write a prime number between 15 and 30. 15, so 16, no. 17, yes. 18, no. 19, yes. 20, no. 21, no. 22, no. 23, yes. No numbers can go together to make 23. 24, no. 25, no. 26, no. 27, no. 28, no. 29, yes. And 30, no. So those are your only correct answers. You only have to give me one, though. All right, now let's get started with our lesson. I want you to go ahead and look at your geometry template and answer questions 1 through 3 on the top of page 92 in your math journals. They say this. Answer the following questions about your geometry template. Do not count the protractors, percent circles, and the tiny little holes next to the rulers to answer these questions. So it says, number 1, how many shapes are in the geometry template? Number 2, what fractions of these shapes are polygons? Make sure you answer that with a fraction. And number 3, what fractions of these shapes are quadrangles? Go ahead and figure those out. Make sure you have your own geometry template and aren't sharing with a neighbor. Look in your desk if you're missing one, or we also have some extras. Just go ahead and raise your hand. Come back to me when you finish. All right, you must be finished. So here are your answers. The first one is 24 shapes. Okay, so that includes these circles, the squares, all of these shapes. Remember, don't count those really tiny holes. Don't count those, okay? And don't count your actual protractors and fraction circle. What fraction of these shapes are polygons? Polygons, remember, do not have curved edges. So your circles, you've got to not count your circles and ovals. And I believe there are 18 out of 24. If you reduce that fraction, it's the same as 3/4 because you can divide 18 and 24 by 6. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 24 divided by 4 or by 6 is 4, so 3/4. The next one says, what fraction of the shapes are quadrangles? So that's the same as quadrilaterals. Remember, quad means 4. So you're going to count all the 4-sided shapes. So you've got some squares, a rectangle, parallelogram, a rhombus here, another rhombus down, or parallelogram down here, square, trapezoid. Okay, counting those all up, you should get 10 out of 24, which reduces to 5/12 because you can divide 2 out of both of those. 10 divided by 2 is 5, 24 divided by 2 is 12. All right, moving on. Today, boys and girls, your lesson is all about solving problems using your geometric template. Your learning target is I can solve polygon, features, and vocabulary problems using the geometry template. So all you'll need today is your geometry template and a pencil. First thing I want you to do here is notice that you can use actually your geometry template as a compass instead of using that pointy pencil compass. And how they do this is you're going to put put one pencil in the circle guide at 0 inches, those little tiny circles, and then one like out at 3. Hold this middle pencil, highlight it, hold this one very still with one hand, and then the one that the hand is on back here, this one's just going to circle around, okay? And you should be able to make a circle that is 3 inches with the diameter, the radius, so the diameter will be 6 inches. So go ahead and try that. Make small circles, bigger circles. If you're having problems, make sure you raise your hand. We'll be happy to help you. All right, the next thing we're going to do is look at the bottom of page 92. Go ahead and get your journal out now. Okay, on here it says, the problems on journal pages 93 and 95 are labeled easy and moderate. Okay, moderate's like a little bit harder. Each problem has been assigned a number of points according to its difficulty. Kind of play a little game today. It says, complete as many of these problems as you can. Your geometry template and a sharp pencil are the only tools you may use. Record and label your answers on the page opposite of the problems. Some of the problems might seem confusing at first, but before asking your teacher for help, try one of the following. Look at the examples on the journal page. Do they help you understand what the problem is asking you to do? If you are not sure what a word means, look it up in the glossary of your SRB. You might also look for help in the geometry section of the student reference book. This one talking about finding a classmate, I think we're all going to be doing this at different times, so I really don't want you to be up looking for a classmate. But please go ahead and raise your hand if you get stuck after this, after checking your SRB and looking at the examples, and we'll be happy to come give you a hint on how to solve it. When the time for this activity is finished, you're going to total up your points that you've scored. And if you didn't have time to complete all the pages, you can continue working on them when you have free time, and we'll see who can get the most points. So the pages are going to look something like this. Like number 1 says, using only the shapes in your geometry template, draw an interesting picture. Well, that's pretty easy. So it's only worth 2 points. You're just making an interesting picture, okay, using those shapes. Then down here, number 2, trace all the polygons on the geometry template that have at least one pair of parallel sides. If you're not sure what parallel sides are, you need to look that up in the SRB. You're also welcome to Google it if you'd like to. So parallel sides, and draw all those shapes. Next it says trace all the polygons on the geometry template that have no pairs of parallel sides. So if you do this one will be really easy, worth 1 point. And it's 1 point each for each little drawing you do. So this one, number 1 up here, is just 2 points for the whole drawing. Down here on number 2, it's 1 point for each shape you draw that has parallel sides. And this is 1 point each for each shape you draw that has no parallel sides. Trace 3 polygons that have at least one right angle each, 3 polygons that have at least one acute angle each, and 3 polygons that have at least one obtuse angle each. Half point for each of those, but make sure you label them. So right angles, acute angles, obtuse angles, okay? Assume that the side of the largest square on the template has a length of 1 unit. Draw 3 different polygons, each with a perimeter of 8 units. That's a little bit harder. Look up perimeter either on Google or in your SRB. Figure out what perimeter is and how to find that if you're not sure. If you remember to move through these at your own pace, you can welcome to skip one, come back to it, do the easy ones first. It's up to you. Next one says use your template to copy this design for 3 points. Without using a ruler, enlarge the rectangle. First, draw the rectangle that is twice the size of the rectangle in the geometry template. Then draw a rectangle 3 times the size of the rectangle in the geometry template. Next it says compare the perimeters of the rectangle and the pentagon on the geometry template. Which polygon has the greater perimeter? You may not use rulers on the template to help you, and describe how you were able to solve this using other parts of your templates to solve the problem. 6 points. That's a good one there. Number 9, use the triangles on the geometry template to draw 4 different parallelograms. 2 points each. And number 10, using any 2 polygons from the geometry template, draw 5 different pentagons. Ooh, okay, so put 2 polygons together to see if you can make pentagons, okay? 2 points each for those ones. So your assignment right now is to go ahead and complete pages 93 and 95. Remember to do your work on the opposite page using your geometry template. Make sure you're working hard and understand what you're doing. Remember to use your resources and then ask for help if you need it. When you're done, I want you to continue to work on IXL on the geometry lessons. I'll write those up on the board. We will review for Unit 3 tests tomorrow and take the test on Wednesday. So make sure you're understanding everything you're doing. If you're getting confused, please, please, please don't hesitate to ask. All right, that's it, guys. Enjoy working.